So we've been doing a lot of work around KPIs lately, and I think especially with COVID, it has become a really hot topic to have more control over your business, being able to track your expenses more carefully and make sure that you have less leakage in terms of wasted materials, wasted hours, timesheets not being managed well, paying people incorrectly and things like that. I think for a lot of business, budgeting and actually having more financial control has become quite important. I myself felt it as well, like in our own businesses, even when COVID kicked in, the first thing I did was really go through our budgets with a fine-tooth comb, look for any subscriptions that we've got running, that we'd picking out all your unnecessary costs. We found a phone plan for a phone number no one's actually using anymore. So things like that. I think the most important thing when tough times come is really have good financial control. So once we got rid of all the unnecessary expenses, the next main focus became productivity, and I had the same thing. I had quite a lot of clients approach me around that, on that topic when COVID kicked in, is how to better manage productivity, full stop. How many jobs do you do in full on time, how many jobs blow out, and how many jobs do you have a callback every month will tell you very quickly how efficient your productivity is. It's not like how many man hours you're burning each month, but how many of them are you actually finishing in full on time, making a profit and having a happy client afterwards, versus the callbacks and the blowouts. And I thought, yeah, that sounds so obvious, but how do you track it? JGID has all the information. You have your budgets, you have your hours on a job. Doing that now where every job gets labelled either DIFOT, blowout or callback upon completion. And by doing that and then also sharing this information with the technicians out in the field, we found that the people who are applying this new kid on the block called DIFOT are actually getting way better results from all of their workers without having to threaten them with any disciplinary measures, and they don't have to financially incentivize them either. All they do is tickle their pride, let everyone in the company know whose jobs are blowing out and who's delivering the jobs on time. And you'll find that a lot of the people who were blowing jobs out suddenly will start delivering them on time again, simply because they know that someone actually cares. The financial that we would track, obviously from zero, is how much revenue we had, the cost of sales and the gross profit. Then we will take off any of the operating expenses, and operating expenses is obviously one that we want to measure quite carefully, track our overheads compared to the revenue, which then leaves us with our net profit. Our net profit is great on paper, but we still have bills to pay, so we actually also want to track how much cash has come in and how much cash has come out. Cash flow is really important to manage. You can be making a lot of profit on paper, but if it takes 90 days for that money to actually show up in your account, you'll still end up having to get overdrafts and otherwise substitute that money, which then costs you interest and other expenses associated. So cash flow management here, and then we just want to track the difference of the cash in and out every month. Now when it comes to information coming from JGID, the first and foremost we want to track is the billable man hours, so how many hours actually got worked out in the field being productive and chargeable. We then compare that to our unbillable man hours, which is how many hours were done in the office, on administration, estimating, anything we can't charge the client for. And then we want to track the ratio between the billable and unbillable man hours. For me, this is probably one of the most important health check figures on a company. Revenue is all good to track, but revenue doesn't really tell you so much of a story of what's really happening in the organization. I would recommend to aim for a factor of about 4 to 1. That can be quite ambitious. I've seen some clients who were as low as 1.2, 1.3 billable hours versus unbillable hours. Obviously they're not making any profit, because every hour that they're charging out in the field, essentially they're still paying someone in the office. From my personal experience, and I can't speak for every industry because different industries have different rates, but in rope access I found that if you're around 2.5 up, that's when you can start making some money. 3+ is healthy, 4 is ideal. If you get above 4, give me a call and tell me how you do it. I'd be really keen to see what tricks that management team uses to get such good productivity happening. So then the next one we want to track is jobs done in full on time. versus jobs that have blown out and jobs that we had callbacks on. Obviously, callbacks are really bad because they're already blowing out. Usually you lose money on them, but you end up with an unhappy client. My recommendations, by the way, on callbacks, if you're already losing money, just make the client happy, so at least you still get a good referral from them afterwards. And potentially, if you can actually save a callback well, because you saved it well, they'll give you more paid business that you can actually make a profit on and win back. So treat those callbacks with care and investigate every single blowout. Why did it blow out? Was it poorly estimated? Was the estimator just really gung-ho and thought this will be done quickly and then it just couldn't be done quickly? Or was there any incidents on site? Were the people just dragging their chains? Or did you have trainees on the job? Because what I'm finding a lot of time when jobs blow out is because you've got new people who don't know the trade yet on the job and you're training them, and then so there's a huge cost of training, usually related to blowouts. That's your operations. Then what we like to track as well is how many quotes got done in a month and the total value of the quotes that got done, just to see that your estimators are actually productive and continuously getting new work into the pipeline. Because if you suddenly have a drop in quotes, and that's where the KPIs are so important, because we started off with the revenue. The billable versus unbillable man hours tells us if our productivity is healthy to be able to make a profit. But then if you see, for example, if there's a drop in quotes, you can nearly forecast a month or two down the track that you're going to have a drop in revenue. And then whether you have good processes or not in place, probably your billable hours are going to drop. And so so it's all a chain reaction again related to the quotes. So very carefully watch your quota of quotes being done every month. Total quotes won, the value of the won quotes, and then the ratio of the quotes done to one. So you get a conversion rate of how many quotes you're doing, how many of those actually turn into jobs. Now you could say some quotes take a long time to get approved, but if you've been in business for over 5 years or so, well then you could probably say that you could still take that average now because you've done quotes for the last 5 years. So some of them will still be getting approved this month, even though you're doing new quotes. So it's just, I think you can take a total conversion rate like that if you've been operating for long enough. I think a good conversion rate, people might agree, disagree, but I think it's sort of 30%, more or less, maybe 50%. Depends how aggressive you're quoting. I think if you start getting more than 50% of your quotes approved, probably you're only working for one client and essentially part of their workforce because they're just giving you all their work anyway. Or your prices are too cheap. You could probably afford to win a few less jobs at a higher profit margin and then actually do a bit less work, which also would put less wear and tear on your equipment, less risk of incidents on the workforce, etc. Then another one, I keep an eye like a hawk on that one, is how many leads come from the website every month. Some businesses don't rely on online marketing as much as others do, but personally I found any business I was involved in, online was still always the first and primary source of new business coming in. And over the years I've found that whenever the leads of the website drop, literally again I have that chain reaction where less quotes are being done, less revenue, and then suddenly we're becoming top heavy again and paying a lot of admin staff because we haven't got enough technicians on the tool. So leads coming from the website or total leads if you have other sources, if they're referrals or you go to events or whatever, but you really need to track how many leads are coming in every month. They're the basic ones that you can track quite easily electronically. We have a few nice to have KPIs here as well where you could track how many leads are coming in from staff. Obviously, if a staff member does pass on a lead, you'll have to make a record of it, that it came from them. How many of those then turned into quotes and how many became jobs from staff. It's not an easy one to do, and you need to give your staff quite a bit of encouragement and also training and support to do it. But your staff are still the best people to drum up new business for you. They're already on site. If you can train them when they're on a job to just get used to, at the end of the day, take a pamphlet and drop it off at the building next door or something like that, you can actually get quite a lot of business from your staff. The most important thing is whenever you do anything with staff, you've got to regularly actually stand up to your word to and pay up the incentives that you promised them, because you don't deliver once, they lose interest, and then it's going to be really hard to get them motivated to do anything like that again. So if you're going to do this, be very diligent. I recommend even doing the rewards for these kind of incentives on a weekly basis, because it keeps the hype up. Even monthlies, I find, drags it out a bit. Then 5-star reviews. They're worth gold if you can get 5-star reviews on Google or anything like that. Testimonials, very important. And then if you can, track any positive feedback, complaints, or potentially any other competitions or photo competitions you run internally would be good. I find sharing positive feedback is very important. Keep the team motivated. Don't only share the complaints and the callbacks with them. If you have a really happy client, let the whole team know. It just creates good vibes and keeps people motivated to do their best when they're motivated by desire for good things rather than fear of consequences. I think is always a better way to get teams going. So that's sort of our overall KPI sheet that we would use, or KPIs that we track. I'll just quickly touch on the DIFOT a bit more. As I mentioned, it's the new kid on the block where I found that in alone can actually give you much higher profitability tracking, that KPI. I've got here an example of a client. We've changed the name, but you can see here month by month. And by the way, if you need, we can actually help make these KPI sheets for you. It's a service we provide now, is on a monthly basis to do this for you. You can see how many done in full, how many blowout, how many callback you have month by month for your whole company. Then we actually break that down for you by team member. So here we've just called them generic technician 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I can see for every technician how many done in full on time they had in each month, how many of their jobs blow out, and how many callbacks they have. And then you might find certain patterns of certain people who have all the blowouts. So you can much easily identify who are really your high performers and who are the ones who generally just break even on jobs or lose money. It mustn't necessarily always be just the person itself. It might also be just a skill set, because you can find that one person can deliver on full on time a certain time on job consistently, but they also consistently blow out a different type of work. And so if you find that, rather than disciplining them or threatening to fire them, maybe get your operations manager or whoever's in charge of the scheduling to pay more attention, put certain technicians on a certain time of job that they can actually deliver in full on time. And the ones that they blow out, don't send them to that kind of work, even if it means telling the client, wait another day or two. Just be a bit smart how you arrange your overall work. So that's it in terms of the Excel sheet. I'll jump quickly into JGID to show you how that would look in our software now. I'm just going to use the month of March for this example. I can see here this particular client, I'm doing a filter from the 1st of March to the 31st of March. I'm filtering by the job status complete, and I've arranged everything by the title. Just for confidentiality purposes, I've actually hidden away the client name, the site name, and any of the scheduled stuff. But you can see here quite easily, this company had 5 blowouts, and in this case we have a total of 23, so 17 done in full on time, and 1 review of the price on the job. If you want to narrow this down by technician now, I could run a report by this person here, and I can see this particular person here actually had 5 blowouts, and then that leaves us with 10 jobs done in full on time and 1 price review. So obviously the estimator was too gung-ho on this quote. But yeah, you might sort of start asking questions like, why does someone have 5 blowouts and 10 done in full on time? That would be like every 3rd job this particular person touched blew out. It's a pretty heavy blowout rate. Let's compare this to another supervisor. And I can see this particular supervisor, for example, had 100% done in full on time in this particular date range. Okay, we can see here it was done in full on time, blowout of 5%, but I think that was overridden as a discretionary, still completed to budget. And so that's how you could run all those reports quickly at a glance in JGID, so you don't even need to actually use Excel or anything like that. We just like to put it into Excel so that we can have the information of Xero and JGID parallel.